मॉरल लर्नर्स पेश करते हैं द मुरब्बी सीरीज। इस हफ्ते मुलाकात कीजिए माहिर तालीम और एजुकेशन एंड ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट कंसल्टेंट जनाब इदरीस खमीसा से, फॉर्मर चेयरमैन इंग्लिश सोसाइटी ऑफ साउथ अफ्रीका और ऑफिशियल एम्बेसडर रीड टू लीड प्रोग्राम।
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन, नहमदुहु व नुसल्ली अला रसूलिहिल करीम। रब्बि इश्रह ली सदरी व यस्सिर ली अमरी वहलुल उक़दतम मिन लिसानी यफ़क़हू क़ौली। आमीन या रब्बल आलमीन। अस्सलामु अलैकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। तमाम सामीन और नाज़रीन को मॉरल लर्नर्स की द मुरब्बी सीरीज़ के एपिसोड 7 में खुशामदीद। इस सीरीज़ में हम हर हफ्ते एक डिस्टिंग्विश्ड मेंटर से मुलाकात करते हैं और इस सीरीज़ का जो थीम है रेजिंग एन एजुकेटेड जनरेशन से के मुतालिक से हम गुफ्तगू करते हैं। मेरा नाम मोहम्मद अली बालागामवाला है और आज का एपिसोड कई वजूहात पर कुछ स्पेशल है। The first thing is that the remainder of today's session will be in English, as our guest today is an international one. The second is that today is the 74th Independence Day of our beloved country of Pakistan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless it and continue to keep it safe from harm. And the third is that I'm hosting this for the first time. So, although I wish the circumstances of my hosting the episode today was a bit more joyful, as our beloved intended host, Uwais Mangalwala, is unwell. So, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him Shifai Kamil, and we pray for his swift recovery. And so this morning I was requested to fill in for him. So forgive me if I am a bit unprepared. So before I introduce our distinguished guests for this week, I want to know how many of you are listening in for the first time, or if you are regular listeners. So if you can please comment now, that will give us an idea of who's been listening in and who's new. Okay. Right. That's wonderful. All right. So now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our Murabbi for this episode, Ustadh Edris Khamissa. Ustadh Edris Khamissa is an international consultant in education and human development. He has spoken to audiences in 30 countries around the world and is the ex-chairman of the English Society of South Africa. He is also an official ambassador of the Read to Lead program of the Department of the Basic Education and an official partner in their Speak to Lead program. He is well known for his expertise in self-development, curriculum design, and leadership. And a master with diverse talents, he is most sought after for his relationship advice and his guidance, especially amongst the youth. He has co-authored 3 books, 2 on the art of public speaking, which I think I need to read, and 1 on the premarital conversations. Some of the organizations that he's been associated with are the Ilm to Amal program, the Al Falah College in Durban, and the NIDA Trust in UK. So welcome, Ustadh Idris. Hope you're well, and thank you for taking the time to join us tonight.
Jazakumullah, and I want to also send salams to everyone, and I want to also, I share with you the sentiments of Pakistan. Pakistan is very dear to my heart, and I pray that inshallah Allah protect Pakistan, protect the people of Pakistan, and may Pakistan inshallah, be able to show beautiful leadership as far as the Ummah is concerned. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. All right. So I'm just going to dive in right into the questions since I think we will cover a lot tonight. So just to start off, what's your best achievement?
I've been thinking about it, and without being pretentious or immodest, I think there are many things. Some of our achievements may not have reached the headlines or in the newspapers, but I think for me, I regard when I was in Murabbi as a teacher, when I was able to inspire confidence in children, give people hope, and also in terms of my marital counseling, when couples come to me all full on and they've given up on life, and I tell them, you know me, I am the love doctor, the doctor of love, and I'll bring you together. And those that are receptive, alhamdulillah, they're happily married. So I think for me, I regard as an achievement when I'm able to bring people from two diverse backgrounds together, and instead of them looking at each other with any acrimony or bitterness, they look at each other with love. And so it basically, in the end, if I'm able to unleash the potential of people, give them hope, give them meaning, give them purpose in life, and these are some things I regard as some of my humble achievements.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. All right. So, of the school boards and organizations that you have served on, and there have been several, I know, which one stands out as the most remarkable? What made it shine?
The one of the things is this: I've served in a number of school institutions, and I've traveled also. For me, those board members that have a commonality of vision, those boards that understand what education is all about, and they're able to distinguish between schooling and education, when we have those board members who also have in them young blood, who are able to have the energy and the drive to inspire others. And there are a number of those, when I was a director and the head teacher of Al Falah School, I was, very, very impressed with the how forward-looking they were. And also when I was the head teacher of a school in Roshni in Johannesburg, very, very open-minded, wonderful individuals. So I think in the end, if I were to look at, say, 5 characteristics of these boards, I would say that number one, they gave the head teacher, the person in charge of the school, autonomy. Secondly, they were receptive to new ideas. Thirdly, they were progressive. And fourthly, they had aspirations for the school. And fifthly, they did not look at the school purely from a monetary perspective in terms of whether they are making ends meet or not. In other words, they understood what education is all about.
Right, definitely. And that sort of leads on to my next question. When you talk about the board having a vision, it's very important because, I would ask, what should Islamic education in general and schools in specific aim to achieve in 10 years? What steps do you suggest they take today?
I think for me, as people of faith, as Muslims, it's all about leadership. There is no place for mediocrity. We are people that are supposed to be excellent in our behavior, and it's not about mimicking others, as it were. And I would like to see that our school curriculum and program is geared in terms of nurturing young people to lead, to take ownership of their life, not to be spectators. It's about them making a difference, about them understanding what the true meaning of success is. And success is not about self-enrichment, self-aggrandizement. It's not about me, myself, I. They must create in them umatic consciousness. They must say to themselves that I want to make a difference to my country, I want to make a difference to humanity, and I want to be a contributor rather than a spectator. So I would like to see our schools doing accelerated learning. I would like them to have a much more holistic and diversified curriculum, and not a curriculum based purely on academic excellence.
Right, right. And so what kind of diversity should schools add on other than the academics in terms of the activities?
You see, the whole thing is this, that I want people to know, when you are evaluating a school, the erroneous perception is to evaluate it in terms of academic standards. That's an important pillar. Don't get me wrong, it's a very, very important pillar. But you need far more than that. If a school develops in children the emotional intelligence, which is a critical aspect, because whilst your academic ability might help you in the university, but what will help you in the workplace is the ability to deal with others. It's about dealing with your own emotions. It's also the school needs to have a strong sense of spirituality. It must also have co-curricular programs that develops the body, as it were. It must also have a program in which young people develop their self-esteem. They must also have a program in which the school is able to unlock the potential. And when you say unlock the potential, it's not so much that they can do better academically only, but unlock the potential to serve. It's about servant leadership. It's about being there, responding to the needs of the community. It's about showing compassion when they have to, being kind when they have to. And so, in the sense, he has to look at one, academics, the cognitive. It needs to look at the affective. It needs to look at the moral. It needs to look at the spiritual. It needs to look at all of these areas, so that when you are helping an individual, inshallah, to be able to tap each of those areas so that he's a balanced human being and really serving and not wanting to be served.
Right, definitely, and that's true, because a well-rounded individual goes much further than his academics. Because at the end of the day, and that's one of the advice I also give to a lot of the youngsters, is that education may get you to open your mind, but it's your other activities that take you out in the public, and take you to the forefront of excellence, so to say. So, with regards to the goals of education, what opportunities and challenges do you see regarding online education, especially with the current COVID situation? Online education has sort of risen in importance.
Yes, you see, the thing is, it's purely circumstantial that we've got to use online education, because at the end, then there'll be a huge hiatus or gap, and almost like a deficiency. But the challenges are very, very great when it comes to online things, because firstly, from a teacher's perspective, it impacts on the ethos of the home, it impacts on the activities of the home, number one. Secondly, you find that one of the most critical aspects in teaching is the rapport a teacher has with the students, the ability to engage, right? Now, what happens with online education, it is primarily teacher talk, and children are passive. And when they are online, they become even more passive and they become distracted. It requires a very dynamic educator who has a sense of humor, who understands his students, to engage them. He must not become, tediously monotonous. He must be able to say, I don't want to be predictable. The moment you become predictable, then you've lost the students, because, as you know, we are living at a time when the attention span of children is just a few moments, few minutes, few seconds. If we don't grab the attention, it becomes very, very problematic. The other aspect about this online thing is this, that you find that children that are shy to ask questions, this also further compounds the shyness. They find it even more difficult to raise their hands and ask a question, as it were. So they also psychological issues, sitting in front of the screen and everything else. Entry. So, a lot of dynamism, something that sadly we have to try to make it as stimulating and as exciting as possible, that the student must say, I like it.
Right. And I remember that expression of yours. All right. So, and you're right. I have noticed this because my children are now, because of this situation, doing online classes, right? And I've noticed that because my younger one is not so open in terms of approaching his teachers. So, when the teacher doesn't respond, or there are several people talking, then, he kind of, doesn't get to ask the questions that he needs to be asking, that he would normally be asking in the school environment. So definitely that is a big challenge that the kids are facing. And I mean, the teachers are definitely facing, because now they have all of a sudden need for this dynamic personality, to keep them engaged.
Yeah.
Definitely.
In fact, what you're saying is so true. But what happens also, I think this has given teachers a lot of stress. Also, not all teachers are comfortable in front of a camera, number one. And it requires a lot more preparation, because it's basically like the old traditional way of teaching. Teacher talk and the kids listen. And that kind of methodology is antiquated and archaic. So this is something that puts a lot of pressure on teachers themselves.
Definitely. How does an organization, a school, or some kind of organization that is into learning cope with these issues in terms of training the teachers, and being ready for such events such as COVID-19,
In fact, tomorrow we've got a conference, a Zoom conference with all the Muslim head teachers of South Africa, and they've asked me to address the head teachers, because one of the things that they have found through a survey, we found that teachers are under a lot of stress. They're going through depression. They're also concerned about the costs themselves. Some family members may be affected by it. And, they're carrying this baggage, it's diminishing the enthusiasm, their lost optimism, and in some cases, because this has impacted on the fees at the school, the salaries have been cut by 50% or whatever. So all of this dynamic is really impacted. And one of the things that I say to people, that our faith demands from us optimism. That our faith demands from us, we need to understand that everything happens with the will of Allah. And there is a reason why this is happening. It's for us to reflect strongly on our lives, and to reflect that we need to reconnect with our Creator, reconnect with the Islamic legacy, reassess our value systems, reprioritize our life today. That's what you need to do. I'm reminded what Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, words to this effect, that if you have provisions for the day, if you have a healthy body, if you stay in a property that is secure, then it is as if you own the whole world. And this is the whole thing, you see. So the critical thing, this is important. Teachers are very, very critical in inspiring confidence in children. Teachers must, of their own accord, be self-confident, be solution-driven, and if they are despondent, that despondency is going to be transmitted to the learners. Because I know this, and I really believe this. The teacher never knows where his influence stops. It can even affect the destiny of a child. A teacher is an agent of change. A teacher, a great teacher, must be able to reassure his students that this will pass, inshallah. Allah will not give us a burden more than we can bear. What do we learn? What kind of skills do we need? So I think it's very, very fundamental that teachers themselves, they need to be motivated by the head teacher. The head teacher must get the support of the board We need to interact with them and say, listen, we appreciate the work that you are doing. We understand the challenges. Allah bless you, protect you, and let us work together as a team. Because often you find there is a huge gap between the board and the rest of the school. And sometimes the board and the head teacher. And when I was a principal or a head teacher of a school, I could deal with any challenge, but I could not deal with the challenge of a dysfunctional board. The board themselves need to show empathy, love, and affection. So what I'm saying again, that the critical aspect is the following, is that teachers need to understand these are young boys and girls growing up in a world that they have never experienced, never participated like us. We need to help them how to navigate this world. What steps should they take? What should be their attitude? What skills they need to embrace? And when they leave, what professions should they pursue? So these are important things, you see, the very, very critical. And I want to just say this point. I know we'll discuss this further little later on. I say a great teacher is a gift from Allah. It's a gift from Allah. It's a gift from Allah. And for that great teacher, go far beyond his day-to-day responsibilities. He will pray for them and connect with them.
Correct. And that's true. A great teacher can definitely make a child shine out, for sure. Okay. Continuing on that, a teacher in the role of a Murabbi is very important. So what is the role of a Murabbi as the architect of the nation?
Yes, you know what? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said he came as a teacher. You have an opportunity. You have a captive audience in front of you. A captive audience. You can inspire them to do great things. You can inspire them by your own reading. You can inspire them by your eloquence. You can inspire them by your understanding of them, your empathy. In other words, understanding each learner, knowing what is it that motivates them. When he walks into the class, one of the things that I used to do when I was teaching, and not that I'm not suggesting I'm perfect or have the monopoly of knowledge, is that my prayer was before I walked in the class, I said, Ya Allah, show me the unhappy child. Show me the unhappy child. And Allah used to show me, Allah used to show me in different ways. Because in the end, we sometimes are so preoccupied with the narrow curriculum of the school that a student is sitting there in pain. He needs help. He needs support, but you're not interested. You are there basically filling his mind to write an examination, to write a test that may have little or no bearing on his life, little or no bearing in terms of what is true success. So you find that a Murabbi will understand the uniqueness of each child. They say every child comes to school with three things: with an IQ, with a baggage of values and attitude. But we are so concerned about the cognitive, as someone said, we suffer from pedagogical aggression, as it were, that we only want to feed the mind. But a great teacher understands that I need to nurture his spirit, that I need to connect with him, I need to understand him. And students will take to a Murabbi, you know why? Because the child will say, I like this teacher. You know why? Because he cares for me. I like him because he's concerned about me more than an academic individual, that he cares for me. He's concerned about my life now and also my afterlife. He cares for me. As someone said it so nicely, that a teacher is not a sage on the stage, but a guide on the side. And now to repeat that. A teacher is not a sage on the stage, but a guide on the side. Once again, a teacher is not a sage on the stage, but a guide on the side. I mean, I would ask all of you that are listening to this program, when you look back at your best teacher, and I've asked this question in many parts of the world, many parts of the world, I've asked them, tell me about your best teacher. What is it that you liked about your teacher? Very few told me, I liked that teacher because he was hardworking. But what they said, I liked the teacher because he was compassionate. I liked him because he was kind. I liked him because his lessons were relevant. I liked him because he inspired me to great heights. He gave me self-belief. I liked him because he knew that the classroom was not the sole preserve of learning. I liked him because he understood my experiential world. I liked him because he was unpredictable. I liked him because it was as if whenever he spoke, it was as if he was addressing me. I liked him because he was concerned about our happiness. And I liked him because we could engage him at any time. He was responsible and responsive. I liked him because he made Islam, he presented to us in a beautiful way. I liked him because even in his silences, he was eloquent. I liked him because he was a decent, caring human being, an ambassador indeed.
Definitely. And these are amazing points that every teacher should note down and get it, probably frame on their walls. Right. So what's talking about the school board and the head teacher or the principal? What step could they take so that the teacher and the student relationship continues improving on a sort of continuous basis?
You see, one of the critical things is this. I remember when I was a head teacher of one of the schools, one day I suspended all the lessons for 3 hours. 3 hours. I suspended the lessons. And I said to the teachers, I want you to go to the class and I want you to conduct a workshop and get the students to write on one column what their fears are. Generally, what their fears are, and the other one, what their needs are. And you will not believe that list was so instructive. What things they said? They said, we fear death. Something else they said, we fear that my mom or dad will pass away, we do not know what to do. I fear that my friend will not love me. So all the things that, and what we did, we tried to integrate that in the school curriculum. They say, you know what, allow children to determine the curriculum, lest the curriculum determines them. So the most important thing is this, the board and the head teacher must be on the same page. They have to be on the same page, right? The second thing is this, if I were to make a suggestion, I really believe you would ask yourself that when the students leave your school, ask yourself these two questions. What attributes you want to see in them? Number one, what attributes? We'll talk about that in a moment. And the other is what skills you want to see in them. Now, then work backwards. If you say, for example, you want to see the attributes of integrity in them, you want to see courage in them, you want to see generosity in them, you can come out with 10 whatever attributes. Then you need to develop a program for each of those attributes. Create a theme of the month on the issue of integrity. Then teachers have a workshop about it. then the teachers have an opportunity to also ensure that they also become people of impeccable integrity. They could have a play around integrity. They could have an assembly about integrity. Then you could invite people from the community that epitomize the quality of integrity. And we could have an art competition. You can do a number of things, They could write a book with the theme of integrity, have competitions, a whole range of things, allowing students themselves to initiate any activity. So you could do that. You could look at about 10 attributes, right? Then you say, okay, fine. What are skills that we need? You might say skills, we would like them to be adaptable. That's a skill. What else? So you can determine all the skills that you want, and you make sure that these are developed meaningfully. And we make sure kids are given projects which they do outside the school that show these qualities, the ability to work with others. You might have things like emotional intelligence, you have things like creativity, and a whole range of things. And in that way, you'll find that it becomes a very, very meaningful aspect. So the whole thing is this, that the teachers, all of them have to be in the same page. Now, I often ask this question. When I was a head teacher, I used to ask my staff, are you winning? Are you winning? They knew what I meant. They knew exactly what I meant. They knew it wasn't purely academics. They knew it was about the child's character. They also knew it was about the child's happiness. He's happy coming to school, right? So they knew exactly what I meant. So it's very, very important, very, very critical, so that we are on the same page, so that we make some kind of evaluation. We need to engender the support of a teacher, because one teacher, wrong teacher, can be toxic to the development of all of this. Now, to a teacher that is natural, all of this comes naturally to him, to make sure that his students understand whole nature of education, the nature of schooling, so that they can be eloquent ambassadors. So I would recommend, very, very important, right? Very, very important. The critical aspect is this, because that in life, and I'll just read something my brother wrote, may Allah bless him. When a teacher becomes predictable, the connection with his class will terminate. Learners should look forward to his lessons with eagerness, because the teacher is versatile and exciting. Ibrahim Bhai, may Allah bless you. He must connect. And Ibrahim Sidat, who is responded, is whom you know, Alhamdulillah. He's like our mentor, also a very, very senior person. And that's the whole thing. And what he says is true. The moment you become predictable, the lessons are over. The moment they know exactly what you're going to say, the lesson's over. You've got to create the wow factor in the classroom. You've got to energize them. You've got to make them understand there isn't only one way of looking at things. In other words, you should be versatile enough. So what I'm saying to you, that the board themselves should ensure that the teachers have a whole range of methodology. It's not only teacher talk, you see.
Correct. Definitely. Sorry about that. I seem to have a little glitch sometimes on my internet. I think everybody is busy with the Independence Day holiday online. So one more question. What are your suggestions regarding the conflict resolution within the Board of Governors of a school?
You're talking about within the board itself?
Yes, within the board itself.
You see, the whole thing is this. You've got to sit down, and the critical aspect is this. Sometimes in boards you have the old guard, then you've got the new guard. Now, the old guard, for example, at that time, they might have developed a vision, they made tremendous sacrifices and all of that. And I would recommend very, very strongly the board themselves need to have what they say, like a boss barad or a meeting, a brainstorming meeting, right? And so that the critical things are there, that you have a particular ethos or ethics, as it were, in which you say that, for example, I just suggest a few, that there is no harm to disagree, but we must not be disagreeable. We listen to each other with respect, right? And if we made a mistake, we say we are sorry. But the critical thing is this: the thing that unites the board is what? What is it that unites the board? The vision of the school, right? The real challenge is to see how the vision permeates all aspects of the school. The critical thing when it comes to conflict resolution, I'm of the opinion you only can talk about conflict when disagreements are not being realized. Disagreements are not, for example, you do not understand how to deal with disagreements. Disagreements, they would be there. We're not saying we want everyone to be like-minded in every aspect, but when it comes to the school itself, remember, if there is, a dichotomy or division in the school board, as it were, that will permeate all aspects of the school. The people come to know about it, right? In the end, you've got to say to yourself, why am I doing it? Am I doing it for my ego, or am I doing it for Allah, number one? Secondly, do I have the monopoly of knowledge? I don't have the monopoly of knowledge. So the board has to be constantly educated, informed, and inspired. And what is also very important sometimes, because board members have made sacrifice, maybe financial or otherwise, they tend sometimes to be condescending towards teachers and condescending even to the principal, as if these are our servants. I think that needs to change. And when it comes to conflict resolution, the critical thing is this should be part of the constitution to say, if there is an issue of conflict, these are necessary steps that need to be taken. We need to put that down. And there are different models that can take place. But the important thing is, as long as your heart is in the right place, it will make all the difference.
Thank you, and that's very important that a method of conflict resolution is given to the board beforehand, so they know how to resolve deadlocks and standoffs, especially when sometimes our egos do rise and come to a head sometimes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to invite the audience if they have any questions, because we are almost at the end of our time. So if anybody in the audience has any questions, they can feel free to comment so we can take those.
I'll be happy that if people ask questions. So I know they have not been sleeping,
Definitely. And we have taken on some advanced questions from the audience as well. So, in order to keep it smooth. And Brother Ibrahim is saying that your message is profound. I think he was writing brother, but then it changed to water.
No. In fact, I would have to phone him, because he and I go back many years. Alhamdulillah, may Allah keep him strong and healthy with us, inshallah.
Ameen. So it seems that the audience thinks we have covered quite a bit, and we do have quite a lot of wisdom, and I think your experience has come out and spoken well for the audience for these questions. So I would like to thank you, Ustadh, for taking the time out for us today, and this lovely conversation and the wisdom that you shared with us. We would love to see you back in Karachi in Pakistan soon, once things go beyond the new normal, and inshallah,
but I want to just Okay, could I just say something here, right? The okay, the critical thing is this. You know, psychologists have said that if you do not change within 48 hours after a presentation, unlikely you're going to change. So I'll be so happy. I am not saying I've got the monopoly of knowledge, but I'm sure there's some things that I've said might make you reflect. It's very, very important to perhaps use that reflection and look at how it can impact positively on your school. Otherwise, we can just listen to many, many people. And in the short time we had, Alhamdulillah, I thoroughly enjoyed the interaction with you, Ali Bhai, and Allah bless my friend Abed and Alhamdulillah, and also, you know, Jazakumullah. I'm sure someone can ask me one question. Otherwise I will not sleep too well, you know. I want one question.
Yeah, which question? Let's see. I'm waiting. I think our audience is very shy today.
Okay.
All right. So, you know, one of the sisters has sent a question, and we have touched on it. It's not online; it's come offline to me. And it was about the Murabbi. Sorry, did you lose me? One of the sisters sent out a question offline about, and we had touched on this, that the Murabbi is an architect of a nation. So, you know, how can we nurture our children to, you know, be the next leaders and the next, you know, the backbone of our nation, so to say, especially considering today is our 74th Independence Day in Pakistan. What do we need to instill in our, you know, kids to make it, you know, make Pakistan better, so to say, you know, make Pakistan great again?
You know, one of the things that I mentioned earlier on, I think the purpose of all our schooling should be to nurture leadership in our students. And I think it's very, very important is that we as educators, you know, we need to inspire in them a love for the country. We need to also look at areas of concerns and ask them if they were in charge, what would they do differently? And to create that passion, you know, they create the passion. You know, I've come across this before, and I'm to repeat this. We teach who we are. We teach who we are. So all your philosophy and everything else that you have as an individual would be transmitted to the students. So I think it's very, very important, very, very critical, because Pakistan, you know, has gone through many, many challenges, and we really pray for its ongoing success. We pray for there'll be differences, but the differences are based on the love they have for the country rather than the love for themselves, right? And to create cohesion and to do these things. And in the end, when each school, for example, takes up the responsibility in developing that, asking kids, you know, having a conversation with the students, what do you think about the country? Right? Do you love Pakistan? Why do you love Pakistan? You know, and then perhaps get people that have done significant things in the community to inspire that. And that's fundamental, you know, it is critical because we are living at a time when the ummah is bleeding. We do not want, for example, you know, like Pakistan and all these Muslim countries, as it were, to go through all these issues that is so destructive. And young people, you know, sometimes, you know, they can be quite cynical and whatnot. So I think a part of the school agenda must be, right, in the curriculum, what I will do for my beloved country. What I will do for my beloved country. And we need to do that.
Definitely, definitely, and that is very important because I feel uh, the children of today have, I think, the sense of patriotism has been deteriorating, so to say, over the years in terms of making the country better. Maybe it's a consequence of the globalization, where everything is sort of gelling into one culture and things like that. But I feel, every year now, the Independence Day, the children are not as enthusiastic as maybe we were of doing something better for Pakistan. So maybe I'm wrong, and I hope I'm wrong,
Yeah.
to be honest.
No, but the thing is, I think in the end, we need to address these issues, right? We need to create a consciousness. We need to do that, and I think it can be done. It can be done, and you can do it in different ways, right? For example, you can develop in them some skills like public speaking. Allow them to speak and debate as they are in parliament. You know what I'm saying to you? There'll be a greater
Mm.
degree of empathy, and that's important. But and I feel that every school, part of that curriculum should be a one subject per week integrated over there. What I can do for my country, and think of creative things, and that's important. One of the most important attribute of a great teacher is his creativity. Any teacher worth his salt is creative. So inshallah, once again, jazakumullah to all of you. Pakistan is very, very close to my heart. I've been there a number of times. And inshallah, I look forward, and I really appreciate the invitation. And thank you so much. Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum assalam, and jazakallah khair, Ustadh, for all this time that you gave us tonight. Some of the main points that I picked up was about nurturing our children towards leadership, about loving their country and asking them what they can do. Or as John F. Kennedy said, ask not what the nation can do for you, ask what you can do for the nation, so to say. And one of the most important thing I think that you said, and you emphasized this 3 times as well, is that the teacher is not a sage on the stage, but a guide on the side. So I think this is definitely an amazing, um, profound wisdom that we will take away with us, inshallah, tonight. So Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for this. Now I'm अगले हफ्ते जो है हमारा जो सेशन होगा इंशाल्लाह वो मुफ्ती मोहम्मद नजीब खान जो है वो मुफ्ती मुजम्मिल हुसैन कपाड़िया को होस्ट करेंगे और ये इंशाल्लाह 21 अगस्त को होगा मुफ्ती मुजम्मिल हुसैन कपाड़िया फाउंडर मेंबर हैं और नायब मुदीर हैं इकरा रोज़तुल अतफाल ट्रस्ट के 1984 तक से वो डायरेक्टर हैं इकरा एजुकेशन सिस्टम के और इकरा हुफाज स्कूल्स एंड कॉलेजेस पाकिस्तान के माशाल्लाह से हाफिज कुरान है दर्स निज़ामी की है और उनकी स्पेशलाइजेशन है फ़िक़्ह में जामियतुल उलूम से जामियतुल उलूम अल इस्लामिया अल्लामा बिनौरी टाउन से उनकी ग्रेजुएशन कराची यूनिवर्सिटी से हुई थी और उनकी पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन उम्मुल कुरा यूनिवर्सिटी मक्का मुकर्रमा से हुई थी so inshallah join us next week or jazakallah khair to everyone for joining us tonight. We are actually a bit over time, so jazakallah khair to Ustadh Idris and to all of you for joining us. And if you have any questions for Mufti Muzammil, you can send it to inshallah our page as well in advance. So join us next week and thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.